Welcome to part 2 of Macrofinance's video lecture series on the Phillips curve, where I guide you through its practical applications. The research begins with the collection of data on inflation and unemployment. Depending on the period and the country or countries under analysis, inflation data, specifically consumer prices, production prices, or GDP deflator, can be sourced from databases such as World Development Indicators, National Statistical Institutes, or the IMF database. Similarly, data on unemployment rates can be obtained from databases like the International Labour Organization, National Statistical Institutes, or the IMF database. All these databases are publicly accessible. For the purpose of illustrating the practical application of the Phillips curve, I have chosen to use annual data on inflation, specifically consumer prices, and the unemployment rate in the UK from 1980 to 1995. This data was gathered from the publicly available FRED database. With the data in hand, our next step is to research the model of the static Phillips curve. The initial step is to visualize the data through a scatter plot, in which the inflation rate is on the y-axis and the unemployment is on the x-axis. A scatter plot can be created using a variety of tools, including the R program, Excel, or statistical software such as eViews, Stata, and similar. The blue trend line exhibiting a negative slope illustrates the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. So across the period from 1980 to 1995, the Phillips curve demonstrates a short-term inverse relationship. Descriptive statistics can be calculated manually, but to ensure accuracy and efficiency, we can utilize tools such as the R program, Excel, or the previously mentioned statistical software. In the descriptive statistics table, we gain insights into each variable's characteristics over the observed period. This includes the average value or mean, median representing the middle point in the dataset or the value that separates the higher half from the lower half of the data sample, standard deviation, maximum and minimum values, and the number of observations. In our example, the high standard deviation of 4.04% compared to the mean inflation value of 6.19% indicates significant volatility. Additionally, the very high range between the minimum and maximum further confirms the volatility of inflation during the observed period. This suggests that the inflation rate experienced substantial fluctuations over the given time frame. Again, utilizing tools like the R program, other statistical software, and even Excel for simple OLS estimations, we obtain key findings from our research reported in the table. What findings are important? First, the sign, value, and statistical significance of the Phillips curve coefficient, represented by beta 1 in the equation, holds significance. In our case, the coefficient has a negative sign, a value of 1.127% and statistical significance at the 10% level. This suggests that we can accept the alternative hypothesis indicating an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. Second, diagnostic checks in the lower part of the table are also vital for assessing the model's validity. Here is the interpretation of the findings. During the observed period in the UK, a 1-unit increase in unemployment was associated with the reduction of 1.127 percentage points in inflation with a significance level of 10%. The R-squared value of 0.20 indicates that approximately 20% of the variation in inflation rates in the UK from 1980 to 1995 can be attributed to changes in unemployment rates. With an F statistic of 3.562 and a corresponding p-value of 0.08, the overall model is statistically significant at the 10% level. Next, we researched the expectations-augmented Phillips curve model using the same dataset. We begin our investigation by creating a scatter plot where delta inflation is plotted on the y-axis while unemployment remains on the x-axis. Delta inflation is derived by subtracting the previous inflation from the current value. Notice the blue line, a trend line, with a similar negative slope as seen in the static model, indicating an inverse relationship between the two variables. In the table of descriptive statistics, due to the first difference of the original data on inflation, the resulting data on delta inflation has one less number of observations. In the table reporting OLS estimates, the Phillips curve coefficient exhibits a negative sign with the value of 0.7065%. And statistical significance at the 10% level. Consequently, we can accept the alternative hypothesis indicating the existence of an inverse relationship between delta inflation and unemployment. The interpretation of the results is slightly altered. During the observed period in the UK, a 1-unit increase in cyclical unemployment was associated with a reduction of 0.7065 percentage points in unanticipated inflation, with a significance level of 10%. In addition, we can calculate the natural rate of unemployment, which in our example is slightly over 8% per year. For those interested in delving deeper into the theoretical foundation and practical use of the Phillips curve, the references provided here are a good starting point. Thank you for your attention.